Hello, my name's Duncan Morland. Welcome to the Crypto with Kash podcast, episode number 10. I'm joined by Kashaya Abbasi. Hello, Kash.
Hey, how you doing? You right?
I'm also joined by my new influencer, Halo, which is supposedly going to make me look like I'm not dead.
It suits you.
Yeah, thanks. Kash, you run the fortnightly newsletter, Crypto with Kash. Is that true?
That is true.
That is true. And do you have a community?
Yeah, we have a Crypto with Kash community. They're a wonderful lot.
Yeah,
I really appreciate them, and yeah, it's great to have them. Really.
Who's your favorite?
I cannot answer that question. Come on, don't put me on the spot.
Okay, this week's topic is the crypto market crash. The market is currently down. Can you tell us what is happening, Kash?
Yeah, so Bitcoin has fallen from its all-time high of, I think it was 69,000, which it hit back in November. And since then, it's been, declining gradually. Right now, it's resting at around, at the time of writing and speaking to you, it's around 39, 40. I think it's jumped back up from 39, which it hit like an hour or so ago. And obviously what happens is when Bitcoin goes down, it drags the rest of the market down with it. So I'm just looking at the markets now and I'm just seeing a sea of red. A lot of coins are down at the moment, but of course, it just gives us an opportunity to buy down lower. Of course, short term, there might be some further bleeding. Just looking at the markets, if it does fall below 38,000, then it might go all the way to 32. But a lot of, big investors believe that, 38, 39 will be the bottom before we have a rally up, back up again.
So they reckon sort of that's where the support is?
Yes. A lot of large traders that I follow, for example, Zhu Su from 3 Arrows Capital, who's worth billions. They have billions of dollars of assets under management. They've very publicly said that 40,000 is the same as the 30,000 bottom that we saw back in July.
Right. Watch it go to 30,000 now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, but I think it's quite significant that they've come out and publicly said this.
Yeah.
Let's hope that the market agrees with them.
I guess they might. There's probably a lot of, when you see like long-term charts, it often is like, peaks, then goes down, but the down trough, it doesn't often go down as far as it previously did.
Exactly. But what they say, Bitcoin goes higher than you anticipate to, and it falls lower than you anticipate to as well.
Yeah.
That's why it's very difficult to time these markets,
Yeah. And like I think we said this last week, like people sell when markets are low and buy when they're high. And I just wanted to read to you some of what's going on in the cryptocurrency Reddit forum, cool. Some of the headlines that people are posting, and just get your response, or just sort of, are these people handling it well? And if not, what should they be doing instead? So I'm just looking through now, and the first one I see is, I'm scared and I'm tired of pretending I'm not. This is just reminding me of 2018 too much. Day after day, week after week, my portfolio, I shouldn't make a joke out of it, my portfolio is losing a few percentage points with no end in sight. Then there's another post, Bitcoin just dipped below where it was a year ago for the first time in 16 months. Cryptocurrencies will not kill fiat, and people who think so are ignorant. Forget crypto. The entire stock market could crash in the upcoming months, and you should prepare. There's one here that says, if Bitcoin was at $100,000 right now, people would be asking for another chance to buy under $50,000.
That's a very, very fair statement, I think. I mean, the sentiment is obviously, generally speaking, a lot of people are very worried, which is natural, of course, if you see prices declining as fast as they are, and you see the value of your investments going down, then, of course, naturally you would feel like that. But I think what's important is to remember that the rule number one is to only invest with money you can afford to lose. So as long as you've done that, I think that can help to, you can better control your emotions when things like these like this happens.
I think it just I don't want to stop you, but like so many times I read comments from people that aren't doing that. They're literally putting, you know, everything into it, like all of their page, you know, like sometimes you read people sort of like foregoing rent and stuff because there's this kind of hype machine of like it's a one-way ticket to financial freedom, whatever, and it's just kind of
I think that's what it comes down to. So I always tell people, you know, crypto is not a get rich quick scheme, but you can get rich quick. You know, there's a difference between that, because I think people enter this space with, you know, a lot of misconceptions. They hear about certain people putting in $1,000 in a meme coin and turn it into like 100 million. They don't realize that these are a very small minority of cases. And the vast majority of people, unfortunately, when they do go chasing you know, projects which lack the fundamentals, they do end up losing a lot of money. And that gives, you know, crypto the negative perception that we perhaps see from the media and some, you know, some people from the traditional markets, for example. But, you know, it's for that reason, you know, for days like this where we take money off the table as well when we are in a good position to do so. So that way we're, you know, working with the market's money as opposed to money from our pockets. So of course, when everything's going up, people say, "Oh, you shouldn't take profits," and you can make more money if it continues going up. But you know, it's days like this why we do take profits, even though we are focused on the long term. It's good to take some money off the table when you are in a good position to do so.
Yeah, and some of the coins in the portfolio, at least over the last couple of days, have been going against the market trend and going up.
Yes,
and I guess. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think one of the reasons is that because it's quite diverse, the portfolio, in terms of which,
exactly. We've tried to cover a lot of the niche sectors within crypto because there are many. You know, there are L1 protocols, layer 1 protocols. There are also Metaverse projects, NFT projects, DeFi projects. It's good to cover different sectors so you're not, you know, putting all your eggs in one basket necessarily. And as you mentioned, some of our coins are, you know, bucking the trend, and they are still doing well, relatively speaking, you know, to the rest of the market. So that shows very, very good strength in the coin and the project. And it perhaps implies that when the market does stabilize, that they will be the coins that rally up the most. So it'll be good to, you know, pay attention and see what happens.
Yeah, I guess another thing is the way and this, I guess, could be general advice for managing risk. And like when we're talking about not putting all of your money into high risk sort of assets, is the way you structured the Crypto Cash portfolio is for the more risky plays have less money allocated to them.
Yeah.
Just I mean, it's maybe obvious, but can you just explain why you did that and what?
So we've been lucky because the projects that we've generally put more of our money into, they've turned out to do, you know, they've performed better, and it's there's a reason why we decided to allocate a larger portion of our portfolio to those coins, because fundamentally those coins were the strongest, and as we've seen, they've performed very well in the past year or so. But at the same time, for every portfolio, I believe it's important to have, you know, higher risk, higher reward sort of allocations as well. That way, if they do very well, you know, they can return substantial amounts of money and profits. And if they don't do well, then you're only, you know, technically losing a small portion of your portfolio. So in that sense, I think it is good to diversify and again, not put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, I don't know if you've heard of have you heard of the phrase Boglehead or Boglehead?
I actually haven't, no.
So Jack Bogle is like, you've heard of like index funds in stock investing. So for anyone that doesn't know, it's like instead of picking stocks, you're kind of buying
like a
large basket of the entire market, or and those one of the really big kind of philosophies behind that is that overall, broadly speaking, the market is going to go up over time, and a lot of the best kind of investors that do that style of investing, they're able to just buy into the market and switch off almost. They've got like a long-term time horizon.
Yeah.
And it means that they can ride out dips like we're seeing in the crypto market like now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just thought it's interesting that, like, I mean, it's hard to do, but like it's that zooming out on a chart, I guess, and looking at the long-term kind of trajectory. And
exactly, our focus is on the long term. So these short-term price fluctuations are not going to alter our long-term, visions for this space. I think that's very important to, as you mentioned, zoom out to put things into perspective, really.
What's happening? Do you know what's happening in like in the sub kind of niche markets in crypto? Like, are NFT prices crashing as well? Or like
Well, NFT projects are still launching, and many are still doing very well. I think OpenSea this month did the highest volume in months. Really, I think they did something around 2 billion in 9 days, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
So while that might not directly reflect on prices at the moment, because when Bitcoin goes down, the rest of the market goes down as well. But it shows that there is still a lot of interest in NFTs.
Is money moving from some cryptos into NFT? Like, some people that don't want to get out of the space just moving their money into NFTs and that? Or?
Good question. It's difficult to say because, of course, transactions are anonymous, but you can look at general trends. New narratives pop up in crypto all the time. It's difficult to answer that question, really, but a lot of people do. For example, when Ethereum goes down, they do see it as an opportunity to buy Ethereum, which is the currency used in most of these NFT purchases. So they use it as an opportunity to stock up on a currency that they can then use to buy NFTs later down the line.
Yeah. One thing, I know we've already said it, but like, I do find it like amazing because the thing that Warren Buffett says is like, I think there's quotes from him saying like, all you need to do is buy low and sell high, and like, but most investors sell sell low and buy high, and you just see it, reading those Reddit headlines. You see it in the community of people worrying, which is like, it's not to like ridicule people or ever, like, you can understand why, like when you see your portfolio drop and it's in the red, it's like worrying, especially if you've seen profits and stuff.
Yeah.
But I understand it's like really counterintuitive, but it's like, it's almost like the fundamental simplest way of looking at investing is like, when the markets are down, you buy, and when they're higher, you sell.
But when it's happening in that very moment, your brain is telling you to do the exact opposite. You're not going to buy when everything's red because you're like, oh, it's going to go lower. Then I'll probably buy when it goes lower, but then the market doesn't go low and it bounces up higher than where it was before. And you're like, okay. And then when it goes high, you're like, okay, I'm finally going to buy. And then the moment you do is when it marks another top, and then you have. It is difficult. That's why
that's me.
It is very difficult to time the markets, and that's why we focus on the long term. Because as you said, when you zoom out, you see all of these massive price corrections happening multiple times throughout the year, and but the general trend is upwards.
Yeah, and I think people do. I see that because I guess I read the forums too much, but like, you see people have that sentiment at first, like, oh, the market's dipping, this is a good time to get in. But it's the sustained downtrend that when people really can't deal with it.
Which goes back to what I kind of mentioned before, which is Bitcoin goes lower than you anticipate to, and it goes higher than you anticipate as well.
Yeah.
So it works both ways. If you are waiting to buy, then it goes lower than you want to buy, for example, and you start panicking. You're like, okay, let me just wait until it goes lower, and then I can get in at a better price. But then suddenly the price bounces up, and you're like, okay, let me wait for another dip, and it keeps going higher, and it keeps going higher.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, let me wait for the next dip. I'll buy on the next dip, but it keeps going higher. And the moment you buy is when it marks another local top, for example.
Yeah, I mean, that's why the dollar cost averaging.
Exactly.
Like you advise. Maybe it's just. Can you just give us a quick one-liner for anyone that doesn't know what it is?
Yeah, so dollar cost averaging is instead of investing all your money at once and buying it at this price, for example, you split your budget up into incremental purchases. So if you have, for example, £1,000 that you want to buy, don't buy £1,000 today. Instead, split it up into £100 and buy £100 every week or so. So that way, for example, you get the average price of the next 10 weeks or so. That way, if it falls lower, then you can capitalize on potential price drops, and over time, you get the average.
Yeah, and I think you also get like that detachment emotionally, that like if you're kind of scheduled, you know, I buy £100 of the cryptos I like every week or every month, whatever it is, you know, and you do that whether the market's going up and down, and you're doing it with money, like, you know, you're not kind of selling your household items and your baby or whatever to fund it.
Yes.
Like, you can kind of just switch off from the daily noise, especially if you're like, you've got that long-term trajectory, I guess.
Yeah. Of course, and that's if you believe that, you know, these crypto projects and these crypto coins will be at a much higher price point in the future. You know,
yeah, and that's
dollar cost averaging. You just have the opportunity to capitalize on days like this where prices are a lot lower. You know. Yeah.
So long-term investing rather than day trading again. Yeah, which is what your newsletter is all about.
Yeah, precisely.
Josh Allen of BetChat had a completely unrelated question to the market crash.
Yeah.
His main concern is, why are people spending hundreds of thousands of dollars or pounds on virtual real estate, basically? So houses, pieces of land in the metaverse, or I guess crypto-based games, stuff like that. We kind of talked about this a few weeks ago, I think, but yeah, help Josh out.
I think it's a very good question, and it's a valid question.
Don't tell him
that. I'll try not to, but no, it is a good question in the sense that, you know, it does seem a bit, you know, crazy to be spending that much money on land that is intangible. You know, you can't even touch it. But I think ultimately it comes down to speculation at this point. You know, a lot of people are speculating that the price of the land that they are paying for today, even if it is, you know, hundreds of £1,000s, then one day will be much higher. And, you know, in buying it now, you can profit from that. But I must say that, of course, there is a lot of speculation involved at this moment. A lot of projects are perhaps overvalued for what they are offering. I mean, yeah, ultimately the short answer is speculation. But the thing is, I think what a very important thing to keep in mind is to actually, you know, consider buying a VR headset and actually, you know, putting yourself into one of these virtual worlds to see what the experience is like.
I'm beginning to think you're sponsored by a VR company.
I mean, I would love that. But the number of times I've talked about it, you know, on here and to my friends, I cannot, you know, stress enough just how incredible the experience is. It's because it's the first time I've truly, you know, felt like I've been taken into a different world. And unless you try it, you know, someone can sit here talking to you about it like I am for days, but you won't fully appreciate it until you've put the VR headset on and you get, you know, transported into a totally different world, and you can become any character. You can, you know, try on these sort of NFT sort of new clothes, new shoes, and these metaverse worlds. Then you know, fully be able to appreciate what's going on and what we are, you know, transforming into. Because, you know, in the next few years, as we have seen with Facebook, you know, rebranding to Meta, I think we are transitioning into a more digital world. And the metaverse is only going to become a bigger part of our lives. And by investing in these sort of projects, you are potentially, you know, setting yourself up to profit from this, you know, upcoming trend.
Can I ask you a question? And maybe it's the big hippie inside me trying to get out. I mean, obviously the cryptocurrency world is very money focused, and you can look at it in some regards, you know, if you're thinking about NFTs or maybe new ways for people to monetize their digital art and things like this, you know, that's maybe a good thing. But it's also like, for video games, for example, there's a lot of pushback, I think, from long-term gamers or video game critics and stuff, because I listen to a lot of video game podcasts that, you know, like there's a lot of pushback on NFTs, things like this, like the idea of playing a game to earn money. Like I think part of the reason is because even big companies like Ubisoft and EA are kind of shoehorning in, you know, NFT stuff or crypto stuff just to appease stockholders and things like this. And I guess what I'm saying is, like, the Facebook meta universe, are we going to be living in like this hyper capitalist world where everything is just monetized? I think I read something no, I won't even bring that up, it's probably not true. I read it on Reddit, so yeah. So
the best source of information.
Yeah, like it does worry me a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Like everything just being, because I quite like
one thing that did worry me
of stuff.
One thing that did worry me, which I don't know if it's true again, but and this is coming from, you know, obviously an advocate of virtual reality headsets and Metaverse, was that I'm not sure if it was Mark Zuckerberg himself who said this, but apparently when you do enter the Metaverse with one of these new headsets of the future, you'd be able to be speaking with your friend and reading your text messages at the same time, using augmented reality. So
that's, you know, people get
will not see you reading the text messages, but I just thought that's quite concerning, because of course,
just your like attention span is just being dragged and
exactly. And like, you know, people are a lot less social than they used to be. We're, you know, always on our phones, always on the computer, and with these VR headsets, if you are going to be looking at text messages or surfing the web, even when you are speaking to your friend in person, then we're going to lose that one last piece of, you know, social activity that we have.
And I don't think, I mean, that's the hypocrisy of it, is like, I imagine that he's not doing that. Do you know what I mean? Like Mark Zuckerberg probably isn't addicted to Facebook.
I mean, there was this Netflix show I watched. I think it was called The Social Dilemma, if I'm not mistaken. But
yeah, I think it is.
They were interviewing a lot of executives from all these social networks, social media networks, and they were all saying how they've banned all of their children from, you know, using the same websites that they work on. You know, they don't even have a laptop or computer in their bedrooms. They just have one in the living room, and they're not allowed the phones after 6 p.m., for example. So it's funny to see how, you know, how these people who are working on the algorithms, which are, you know, very addictive, you know, stopping their own children from becoming addicted to them.
Yeah, I guess I should mention as well, like, the part of crypto I like is like the open source nature of the development, you know, like people collaborating together, like, and not, you know, a lot of people are obviously in it for like a monetary incentive, but there's a lot of like great nerdy people that are just in it for the love of like the technology, and they're just it's that like, I'll share my work openly with everyone, I'm not asking for payment for it, you know, and you can collaborate with me on it and stuff like this. And there is, you know, we talk about Mark Zuckerberg and the Metaverse, there is like a counter movement to that, which is like, I've seen like hashtags for it, I think it's like either like the open metaverse or free metaverse. So it's like people are trying to build an alternative, you know, that's not controlled by a company with dubious like kind of moral a dubiously moral robot in charge. But
I think there are a lot of misconceptions when it comes to NFTs and the metaverse, and that is perhaps partially due to, you know, the way the media portrays certain events within the crypto sphere. So, you know, there's a lot of backlash from these game communities, you know, adopting NFTs, and that's because a lot of people feel like there's environmental concerns, not realizing that some of these projects are not proof of work. Like Bitcoin is, you know, they don't all require intensive mining rigs and mining systems to, you know, operate the network. But I think with NFTs, again, because you mainly hear about, you know, scams and rug pulls in the media, people who are perhaps not involved with the crypto space, they only hear about the negatives, and so they have negative perceptions of the whole NFT space. And
it's all the people, like all the NFT bros, like telling everyone they're going to get rich. It's all that. It's that kind of like And I'm a copywriter, so like it's my job to like not to.
It's become a very polarizing topic, but that's because a lot of things nowadays are very polarizing. Everything, you know, becomes a culture war in a sense.
Yeah, and it's that like financial, those promises of financial freedom and things like this, where it guaranteed, like not preparing anybody, going back to what we were talking about originally, like, you know, just telling everybody this is your key to financial freedom, blah blah blah, and then not sort of preparing people for the realities of investing, which are very up and down. You know, very like, you do your research, you do your best, and you pick a time horizon that fits your risk tolerance and things like this. And like,
exactly.
Yeah. So, okay, well, we're coming up on the 26-minute mark, and I don't know what that means. It means that I've now remembered that I forgot to ask people to comment if they have questions, any questions they'd like us to talk about. We appreciate a like and subscribe, because one day we'll be broadcasting to 6 million people rather than 6. And is there anything you want to finish on, like just maybe sort of?
No, I think that was a great chat. I'm very interested to hear about your takes, which have been shaped by Reddit comments, as always.
It's terrible. I can't. It's like I don't read any. I don't really use social media anymore, except like Reddit is social media. But at least Reddit is self-admitted stupid. Do you know what I mean? Like everyone on there's like, do this, but I'm an idiot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's interesting, but no, I appreciate the conversations we have, and as always, you have great input.
Oh, thanks. Well, it's this halo above my head. So.
Yeah, you're a new man with the new, you know.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure my sister spent about £5 on this flight. But, okay, well, thank you for taking time to speak to us today, Kash, and I'll see you on next week's podcast, and we'll see everyone listening next week too.
Awesome, sounds good. Thanks for having me. Bye.